Okay. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I see that we have one attendee in addition to the 6 members and Eric, who keeps us in order. So we will call ourselves to order and proceed with the meeting. I am supposed to announce that we are meeting in compliance with amended open meeting laws that allow Open Space and Recreation Committee to hold a remote meeting. I think we can do this until March of 2025. Adequate alternative access to the meeting has been provided, and the Zoom link is on the city website. So without further ado, let's jump right in. We'll welcome Chris Leahy in a few moments when we get to agenda item 1E. But for now, let's begin with a roll call. Oh, first, I'm sorry, we need a rapporteur. Adrian did the notes last month. Is there anyone who is itching to do it? I received a note from Mark previously that he would be willing.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we have at least 3 or 4 people somewhat rotating, but I'll do it again.
Okay, thank you. And kind of restart the rotation. All right, so Mark Poulin is the rapporteur. Okay, our roll call. Mark Poulin.
Present.
Dave Morrow. Kate Parsons.
Present.
Dave Sargent.
Here.
Richard Quaitman is not a present, and nor is Adrian Sweet. We expect her shortly. And we have Chris Leahy.
Present.
Fantastic. The first order of business is the approval of minutes from the prior meeting. And we sent these out to everyone earlier in the week or last week. Have you all had a chance to look them over?
I saw Dave's name misspelled. That's about, I think, with 1 R.
Oh.
I think that's the only thing that jumped out at me. And Adrian's not here to amend them, but we can work with her off on that. Or someone can make a motion to. I think we did this last time. We can make a motion to approve the minutes as amended with the spelling name or whatever else anybody else comes up with after this discussion.
Okay.
But that's the only thing I saw that jumped out at me.
Any other? Yes, Dave.
It says right in the beginning, it says the corrections, something was incorrect or incorrect, but it was incorrect. It's like the 3rd line down or something, 4th line, right in the bullet part at the top.
All right. Your audio is sort of over amplified, and you sounded a little bit like the Charlie Brown's teacher. But I think we picked up that there was something about a correction in the first paragraph or in the first third of the document that you wanted to see.
I think. Go ahead. You can read. I saw what he saw too. I know what it was. It was just a word misplaced or grammar or something. It was.
The word was we.
Yeah.
Nice, we. Okay.
Right. And then I was trying to fix Dave's name. So one thing I think would help be expeditious, I guess, if we did maybe if we got these fixes in before the meetings, right? That way we could just approve the minutes. But in this case, we're going to make a motion to approve them anyway, based on that, right? So.
Yeah. All right. So we have 2 corrections. Correct Dave Morrow's the spelling of his name, and use the word were, vice we as indicated. Where is that correction, please?
It's right at the beginning.
Yeah,
We inaccurate.
It's the second line under call to order, the line that starts
Okay, got
KP right at the end.
Got it. Okay, we're inaccurate. All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended with the correction of Dave Morrow's name and the correction of were vice we in the second line of under call to order.
So moved.
Move Dave Sargent. Thank you. Second.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you, Kate. All right, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. First off, all of the voting members were present at the last meeting, so you're eligible to vote. As Chris would not participate in this vote. He wasn't a member, so I don't think he can participate in this vote. And then we'll talk about what the alternate members can do. Okay, so Mark Pullen,
approved.
Dave Morrow, Kate Parsons,
Yes.
Dave Sargent,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. The minutes are approved with the amendments of correcting Dave Morrow's spelling of Dave Morrow's name and were vice we in the second line under call to order. Thank you. All right. Updates on membership, staff support, and issues related to the processes of the OSRC. So our first order under this item is to introduce Chris Leahy as our newest member. I was pleased when I received the message from Chris this week indicating that he had heard from the mayor's office that his application, his expression of interest in serving on the OSRC had been accepted by the mayor and he was being appointed. And of course, the first step is to forward his application and his name to the city council. And then they have a meeting, it gets referred to ONA and ONA approves it, then it comes back to the council and so on. So the mayor has provided an interim appointment to allow him to participate right away and pending his most certain approval in a few weeks. So Chris, would you like to say hello and a few words about yourself?
Sure. Hello. I'm glad to be here. I don't know how much you want me to say. I could give you a brief bio, but I don't know if you want to take the time to do that. I could also send you a bio kind of thing. Maybe the one thing you might want to know that's relevant to this context is that I've recently retired from a long career at the Mass Audubon Society, where for 30 years or more, I was a department head, was the head of conservation, and oversaw and was instrumental with the development of ecological management plans, which include thorough biological, ecological inventory, and then management plans on those 30,000 acres of wildlife sanctuaries throughout Massachusetts. So that's, some credential in terms of my expertise with natural history, the natural world, that kind of thing. I've also written a number of books on birds, insects, various other things. So that's a brief. I grew up in Marblehead, but I've lived in Gloucester with my family since the late 70s. So I'm almost official.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to the Open Space and Recreation Committee. We're delighted to have you on board. And we are also very pleased to have someone of your expertise adding to our conversations and just keeping us well informed as we talk about our woodlands and the ecosystems of Gloucester and how the decisions of the city government and the advice of this committee may lead towards impacts or improvements to them. So thank you.
Great. Well, I'm very glad to be here, Dan, and looking forward to it.
And one thing you didn't mention, but I think we all know, is that you were a long-term served, or a very long time served on the Dogtown Preservation Commission. And we hope that the good work that was being done there will continue under this different committee. Thanks.
I'm glad to hear that. I've been involved in various Dogtown advisory committees since the 1980s. With people like Peter Anastas and things like that. The commission didn't last that long, a couple of years, but I'm hoping we can continue the focus on Dogtown to an appropriate extent.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the next item. Oh, Eric, do you have any other information under this item, membership and staff support?
Not currently. You've touched on it, just the process of approving. We are still, so thank goodness we have you, Chris, as an alternate. There is still a spot open. There were several people that were interested that I don't know where they are in the process. I don't think they ended up applying. So we maybe we'll push something out on, our community development, social media about, the fact that there is an opening. But there is still one more alternate spot open. So if you guys have anybody in mind, or anybody in your network that might be interested, please have them apply to the mayor's office.
Yes, and so we're authorized 7 voting members and 2 alternates. Chris is the first alternate appointment. As I understand the role of the functions of an alternate, first is if everyone is present, the alternates can participate in the discussion of the meeting as members, and they don't have any sort of secondary status in the conversation at all in any way. The voting members, if we have an absent voting member, an alternate member can then also vote and fill that role. It is not a matter of just maintaining a quorum. It's a matter of if anyone is absent, the alternates can step up. Eric, I do have to ask though, because I don't know, if we have both alternates present, and it's not a question that we need to settle tonight, but maybe one to consider in the future. When we have 2 alternates and both of them are present and a voting member is absent, I suppose we would keep tabs on which alternate steps up for one meeting and the next alternate steps up for the next meeting as a voting member. But we don't vote that often. But again, we don't have to discuss it right now, but I just want to put that question to you for consideration later.
Right. I don't know how it's, potentially there may be like a,
Right.
I don't know if it's like a seniority thing, like, so Chris, you were here first as an alternate member, and maybe you would be,
So let's say that for.
but I'll look into that more closely. Or David, do you know? David Sargent?
What you suggested is true. There's a first alternate and a second alternate, right?
Thank you. So the next item is update on Community Preservation Committee activities. Mark Pullen.
Yes, so
Representative to the CPC.
thank you. So last night we had our monthly meeting last night, and we voted on a few deferred projects eligibility. And so before I get to that, I'll just revise. So we had there were 3 applications. One was deferred, and that deferred when we voted on last night, and that was the Good Harbor Beach Consortium. And we deemed it ineligible. And it was mostly because 2 of the 3 components were ineligible. But there's a potential for the first component, the sort of educational component with kiosks, replacement kiosks in the beach, and educational and awareness around that, possibly coming back as an off cycle, but that's up to the applicant if they want to do that or not. So the main reason that it was ineligible was because the 2 other components, which the consortium and some land acquisition, the main reason was it didn't have a project. It was sort of, we want to create this group. Like, there was no real hard project to fund. Like, if they had brought something to the table, like, we want to preserve this piece of land. So it did not create, acquire, or preserve open space. It wanted to just create a consortium to then go look into possibly doing that. You know what I mean? And that's something that they have to do sort of on their own with other funding. So for that reason, it didn't qualify. But it's not going away. They're going to come back. There's that group is very passionate about that area and climate resiliency and just everything going on with the dunes and the marshlands behind it. It does play into a lot of our open space plan things. And so they'll be back, and we'll see what they have to come up on the table. And then the other 2 that were already eligible were the Sawyer-Free Library garden area, which is really more of a passive recreation thing, but it falls under the open space and recreation category in CPC. And then the other one was already eligible, not approved, was the Camp Spindrift. And it's like an art amphitheater they want to build down closer to the rocks. Again, open space, passive recreation, arts, kind of it's eligible. So that's those are the 2 that will proceed along with the process throughout the summer, and if funded, or if they make it all the way to, budget and finance and city council, they'll be funded next year. So that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Mark? I will note that member Adrian Sweet has joined the meeting. Hi, Adrian. She joined about 5:15, just as promised.
Sorry about that. It's tricky.
No, it's okay.
Too many activities. Thanks.
No, it's great.
Softball season, yeah.
It's
Great
softball season. Yep.
I was a
Doing great
baseball
stuff.
coach for 9 years, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
They're tricky turnarounds. We're good though.
All right. So the next item, thank you, Mark. The next item is the Open Space and Recreation Committee semi-annual report. I'm going to get some help from Eric on this. At the last meeting, you all approved with amendment the first ever Open Space and Recreation Committee report. We discovered in the course of amending or having our charter amended that there was this requirement to file reports in April and September of each year. I think it's April and September, maybe October.
October, yeah.
October. And so
Like every 6 months, yeah.
I see this as a really good opportunity to let the mayor and the city council know what we're up to and know what's important to the committee. And so with your help, we completed that report. We attached a couple of documents to it, kind of our prior correspondence on different subjects. And Eric has, through Greg Catamatori, I believe, submitted it to the mayor's office. Eric, is there more to say?
Yes. So city council, they won't hear it this week, but it'll be on like the mayor's report to the city council.
Okay.
That's how the mayor will probably disseminate it to the city council. So it will rest with that office. He has through Jill, they have read it. We haven't got any, like, what the heck is this? So I think that's good. So yeah, soon it will be, when will that be? In like 2 weeks, probably it'll be on the, or I think in 2 weeks it'll be on the docket for a report to the city council. I think this is a really good precedent. It does show like you guys did a lot I mean, we were covering 6 months here, but it's really good, I think. I mean, the way it reads and everything, and like the attachments we had of, some of the memos you guys have communicated with the mayor's office, and with the city council. I think it's just a good summation of where we've been and where you guys are going.
Okay. Eric, thank you. One thing that I would like to do is when the mayor turns it over to the city council, it would be really great to know that. And I feel like at that time, it would be okay for me to send an email to all the members of the city council with the document attached saying, you received this from the mayor last night or last week or whatever. And I'm standing by for any questions you have. Here's how to contact me, and I'll put you in touch with committee members if you have any questions. Something like that, just so we can follow up and kind of get their attention again.
Okay, excellent. We can do that.
Okay. Any questions for Eric or me on this topic? Okay, thank you. Let's move along. Item 2, business, East Gloucester Open Space Forum and OSRC input. Eric, would you like to kick that off?
Yes, so tomorrow is the sort of the final forum. Always makes me think of the basketball tournament when I say that, but it is like the final presentation from Weston and Sampson to the public. It is, you guys had a public deliberation here about some of what you wanted to see, what was good from the first 2 initial designs that were created in large part out of the first couple of public forums, or at least the first one, and emails sent to the city from the public. So I think it's kind of like this sort of a big unveiling of what is all of that feedback coming in. I can't really speak to much of the design yet. I'm kind of learning at the same time. I have been given word that there will be native tree plantings, so there won't be any kind of like ornamentals. We won't have Norway maples, which seems to be which we are attacking with a vengeance in this city, it seems like. But I'm excited about it. And yeah, I'm here for any questions you guys have.
Oh, first, thank you, Eric. So I hope that all of you can attend. It is not being billed as an open space meeting. It is a meeting hosted by the planning division for this purpose, and it's noted that the open space committee may attend. So that's happening, and I will note that I saw some buzz today that there is another important meeting tomorrow night having to do with the school budget, and so I know there are some folks who are displeased at not being able to attend both. But I think we're proceeding. This meeting has been slated with the consultants for some time.
Yeah. It is a bit earlier than the school committee meeting, if
Okay.
But it was the time that worked with the consultants. We sort of presented this at the last open space meeting that this would be the date, and then we've advertised it before we really knew what the school budget was. So it's kind of how the deck falls here, but with the setup that it will be, if there are questions from, I believe it will be a hybrid meeting. Unfortunately, with the setup, you can't really hear what the crowd says unless they're in front of a mic. So I hope, there'll be, I'll probably have a microphone and get it to people, but, people can see and just like really taking all the actions of schools in Gloucester that night if they need to remotely.
Okay, so we're on at 6 p.m. in Cairo's auditorium. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions for Eric or me on this topic?
Yeah, I have one, and I'm looking forward to being there tomorrow. Excited, hopefully, you had remember we sent a letter, we sent a letter with some consolidated recommendations, hoping that they took those into consideration. I can't remember, do we ask at all if we could get a preview at all, or was that part of that? There was some thought about maybe us seeing a preview of it or something, or
that's an interesting idea, and I think we discussed it, but didn't pursue it because we can only see it if it is public, and this would then, if we were to get a preview in this meeting, this would be the revealing.
Right. No, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I'm sure there are ways to do it, or if there is a will and a strong reason to do that, I think in the future we could be more insistent about having a preview. But I think we have to be conscious of the kind of the open meeting setting in which that preview would occur and how it would affect the forum that would follow it.
Understood. Thanks.
It makes for a very the anticipation is bigger, including for me. So yeah.
Okay, Dave Morrow.
On my calendar is 6:30. You sure it's 6 o'clock?
Yeah, it's posted for 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
I may have said 6:30 at the last meeting, unfortunately. But it has been posted and we publicized it as 6.
Thank you.
I may have dropped 6:30 at the last meeting, so I apologize.
Well, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. The next item is the chair's April meeting with DPW Director Mike Hale. This is my second meeting with Mike Hale, and I welcome these opportunities to meet with him. I went the week after our last meeting, and I hope to meet with him again next week, just to kind of follow up on what the committee has been talking about, and to see what is up in DPW as relates to open space. And these are very informal conversations, and they're rather instructive because I learn a lot about some of the constraints, and a lot of these issues have very long legs, and so I get an earful about some of the history of the topic and the participants and those sorts of things. Let's see, the first item, the Magnolia Woods. I'm going to call Eric in on a couple of these things because he and I have corresponded about them in terms of one thing that one more preliminary statement is I'm a little concerned about having direct interaction with DPW and getting out of sorts with planning, which is, our committee sits in and is supported by the planning division in community development. And if I have this, a successful conversation with DPW, I can't get I don't know. I feel wrong about trying to initiate something that planning isn't fully on board with. So I'm hoping that there is ample staff interaction between community development and DPW to ensure that nothing I'm saying is kind of crossways with either one of them. So, and Eric, I think will chime in with some coordination between planning and DPW on a couple of these items. Right. Magnolia Woods Gate. So this item, we all, Dave Morrow put us in on the Magnolia Woods Gate. This would move. The idea is to put a gate in the interior of Magnolia Woods, which would allow for cars to get off of 127 when the gate is closed. So for much of the year, in the winter, the gate is closed at the road, and anybody wishing to use Magnolia Woods basically has to park on 127, which is illegal and probably dangerous. And this would just have an interior gate that would allow parking inside Magnolia Woods, but it should be armored with large boulders to keep knuckleheads and big 4x4s from going out and doing crazy things on the fields. And so we talked about that with Mike Hale, and he said it's on the to-do list. Now, I was very happy to hear that. I was unable to get like how long the to-do list is, because I'm sure it's a very long list, but I was delighted to hear those words that it's on the to-do list. And in terms of following up, I was offering that the committee could write a letter, and he said, you can do that if you want. And then I thought better of it and said, maybe it's something that Eric and Greg Catamatori can kind of keep active through their staff to staff interactions. And does that square with you, Eric?
Yeah, and I'll just mention with that with your open space report to the mayor, that was also sort of a way to communicate, because we did put that in there, that it was, the Magnolia Woods was folded in here. This was sort of the big priority there, or a big priority of that committee. And there have been a few managers meetings, and that's Greg is above me on those, so it has been mentioned. I don't know I haven't seen the project list. Like, there are some repaving happening. You're gonna see Centennial to Western Ave start to be paved, and some other big things. I think there's stuff happening on Mount Pleasant, Dale Ave, so there's those sort of paving projects. So I'm not sure where it is on the list, but I can try to seek that out to see where it falls in the priority. And I mean, I guess the big thing would be the design of it too, to see if it dovetails with what the Meg Woods committee wanted.
Yeah, and we talked about kind of the ideal location where there's already some barricading rocks, and maybe they need to be doubled or reset so that they're a little even more prominent. But yeah, so any questions on?
I have a question to the committee. Have any of, and this is getting off topic maybe, but have any of you guys played softball up at Magnolia Woods? You have.
Well, yes and no. Because it's so limited for softball fields in this town that we tried to do a practice and hoof it out to where that backstop used to be on that back, there's like really no easy way to get there with softball equipment. It's more than just like carrying a soccer ball, right? And there's no infield. It wasn't mowed, so the balls were taking really bad hops. But I remember being out there being like, this was intended for like a multi-use field. It seems the backstop is there, but it like got really overgrown really fast and was never kept up. There's a huge need for it. Like, I don't know if there's any intention of putting like a little, even for like the t-ball kids or coach pitch kids, because I mean, I just came from a field. I came from West Parish. There's 30 kids on a field. We're in the outfield anyway, right? Because we don't have any places to play. I mean, permits are really hard to get. So more fields, the better. I mean, I know we're working on it with Green Street, so here's hoping. But yes, I have played there. It's not really playable.
And I walk there frequently with my son, so I'm very familiar with the site.
Yeah. Dave, can you talk to that? Was it ever intended to be a softball field or a baseball field or t-ball? Because why was the backstop put in? Do we know?
I think it was intended to be, I sent you, actually, we posted a map of the development of that site. And I didn't look at it to see if there was a softball field mentioned on that, but it's in the Google folder now. Someone could look at it if you'd like, or we can look at it, whatever, to see if it was mentioned in the original design. I don't remember softball being included amongst the original list of people that were the chartered users of the Magnolia Woods, but maybe if we as a group suggested that that would be a field that should be improved and made.
It is on the plan. It's on page 2 of the plan. It says softball field.
Okay, excellent. Well, then we have every reason to request it and maintain. You're not going to really be able to solve the carrying stuff problem.
No, I'm just going to get a wagon. It's fine. When there's a will, there's a way. We just need fields. I know we did look at it, potentially making it like when we were trying to make a good design for the Green Street build. We looked really closely at what other fields could be utilized besides redoing Green Street, because Green Street had 2 little fields and we didn't really want to take away a field, but we kind of had to in order to get the right proportions for an ASA softball diamond. But yeah, no, that would be great. I mean, it's on here. It was in the plans. It was intended. So how do we get them to upkeep it? I guess is the question. It's really overgrown. I mean, it's tough.
Make a motion that we request or suggest to the city that they maintain that field. Is that in our purview, and would you agree?
Okay. It's something I can inquire about in an informal way in my conversation with DPW. I'm certainly not opposed to a motion and towards that. I was just wondering if there's any further context in which to kind of frame that or fit it in.
The backstop's kind of torn down, or just, is there still a full working backstop there? Because that'd be the first step, is to make it a field again.
It's I think it is. I was up there a few weeks ago on the fields, but I wasn't looking, like I know it's there. I didn't really look at the condition it's in. I mean,
my last time it was so far away, and maybe it looked like it was because there was so much growth.
Overgrown.
Yeah.
It's all it says there should be benches. It says, I mean, it's a pretty intensive design for a softball field. It's
I think that was a preliminary, that wasn't the as-built.
Okay.
So they look like preliminary design, because there's like a concession stand in that thing. There's like a walking trail along the pond, and community gardens near where, so it's pretty extensive. But
I want all of this. Let's not. Can dream.
But I don't know why it didn't. Maybe the cost went too high or something was wrong with the membrane.
We're not maintaining the fields we have. Like, if anyone's been down the Oval lately and seen the state of that field, and we have like parents doing it for the West Parish field now. I mean, yeah, they're really hard. They are hard to maintain. Mow and line. Forget it. Swinson's. I mean, no one's using Swinson's, and I think there's one random one like behind Para Research or something. There's like a little field.
I used that for coach pitch years ago.
All right,
just as a practice field.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I just want to see how best to proceed on this. Would the committee? Does the committee want a formal motion and say a memo to go forward, or should we proceed that with a informal conversation with DPW inquiring about?
I think the latter is a starting point. You know, find out
There
if-
might be a reason. It might
if
have
it's
been.
on the list, what's the reason? Yeah, I think
Okay.
that this is perfect kind of things, I think, for this engagement with
All right,
DPW.
so if you'll permit me, I will just inquire, about, what's up with that softball? Okay, yes, Dave Morrow.
So are we responsible for making some sort of maintenance plan for the Magnolia Woods? I mean, if so, this could be one part of it, and there might be other things we could add to it. If that's in our, I mean, it sort of was what the Magnolia Woods Committee was supposed to be doing. So I'm just wondering, did we inherit that?
Interesting question. I'd have to take a look at our charter and to see, I mean, I think the answer is probably yes and no. No, it might not be expressly stated in our charter. Yes, we made commitments to follow up on the activities of the committees that were subsumed by the Open Space Committee. And there's probably enough squishy language in our charter that we could say yes as well. I think I understood you to say, should we be recommending or developing and recommending a maintenance plan for Magnolia Woods, and I could see that being maybe a very scalable project. It could be very big and detailed project, or it could just say there should be maintenance and there should be a softball field maintained as a softball field, soccer fields maintained as soccer fields, and there you have it. So what do you think? What would you like to do with something like that?
Well, I would like to include that they cut down the ragweed in the summer, which is an allergy threat, and it grows wild along there where the kids are breathing heavily when the pollen is flying around. So there's, all these weird little details that we could include if we had a plan. And of course, they're already doing maintenance of the soccer field, so we could just find out what they're doing and say, this is what you should be doing. And so it would be easy that way. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know either.
I mean, so
Oh,
those are issues that we are, I mean, I'm sorry to keep saying we, but that you guys you can bring that forward, like what is the maintenance plan for these fields? People are talking about them. I mean, Adrian, that could be a solution to, if it's possible. I don't know if it's even possible. Maybe there's too many divots in the membrane or that
No,
makes
I'm
softball
looking at these
impossible.
plans.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
there's a playground up there. It's an amazing facility. Like if Gloucester had this, it would be huge for us. Like, I don't understand I don't know why they just stopped. I mean, it's great what we have. It just,
There was a grant and the money disappeared.
okay.
don't-
There's also,
It's
hold on a
usually,
second, please.
sorry, Dan, yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. We've gotten off of our agenda by some distance. And that's not terrible, but I just don't want us to keep going further. I think if I am able to inquire about the softball fields and sort of the state of and the future of maintenance at Magnolia, that could be a baseline conversation. Then they say we could have a follow-up on it. Are there any points of emphasis that the committee would like to advance with DPW? And that could be done formally with a memo, or again, the informal route. I think at some point it is helpful to say, Magnolia Woods, dear Mayor Verga, Magnolia Woods is really important to the Open Space Committee. We see great potential there. This item, this item, this item, this maintenance, this maintenance, this maintenance. We've had informal conversation with DPW, and we seek your support in doing stuff. But maybe a preliminary round of conversation first, if that's okay.
That sounds like a good plan. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you. So we have the softball field and kind of the well, ragweed and the soccer field maintenance. Has anyone been up there to see the state of the soccer fields lately? Okay, I'll try to get by before I meet with Mike Hale.
There's also, I don't know if it's worth mentioning at this point, but there's also tons of invasive plants up there. Some of which would be better just kind of mown down with a large machine. But that may be something that is on the list, but not likely to be top priority at this point.
Okay, but it's something that along with maintenance or removal or mowing of the ragweed could be expressed. Okay. Anything else? I think that's probably enough to get the conversation going. All right.
There will be other things, but you're right. We can proceed with what you have.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to proceed to perimeter delineation of woodlands and resolution of end holdings. This is another loaded topic. So just a refresh on it. Months ago, probably last year, Greg Catamartori was talking about the possibility of some sort of project along these lines. He was sort of vague about it. I think he saw an opportunity for potential funding, and that it was a good idea to get perimeter deeds around some of Gloucester's woodlands and work to resolve inholdings that are either unknown owner or tax liens and any number of categories that don't afford the property any kind of conservation restriction, and so putting them in the perimeter deed and perhaps pursuing the taking of those inholdings might lead to improved conservation in some of these properties. So Greg had talked about it, and then it was Mike Hale offered this as something that he thought was a very good idea. So this is another one where I've said, Mike and Greg, please talk to one another and see how best to proceed. And I think planning and community development are working towards that conversation to involve the mayor as well. At our last meeting, Richard and Kate agreed to or offered to do some legwork in trying to define what the project would be. And the idea being that there have been some delineations and some of this kind of work has been done in the past. And I don't think that there's a single repository of that work. There are Dogtown documents that have some information about the work that's been done related to Dogtown, but the further North Gloucester Woods, Pole Hill, and West Gloucester Woods may have had work done on them, but the records, except for Pole Hill, the records aren't known where they exist, and so somebody might have to do some digging to kind of help define the extent of the project. Meanwhile, here we have, maybe Eric can chime in with what's going on with planning and community development on this topic.
If I can have some input on that,
Sure,
I'm quite familiar with these inholdings and whatever. And the fact is that very thorough research by professional, land person, surveyor, all that, has looked into all of these lots and discovered their current provenance. They're mostly lots that have no, owner of record at the moment. And we have tried on numerous occasions to sort of get the attention of city planning or whatever, Greg or whatever, that this research has been done. It's all in very professional files by a colleague of mine. And it's always been mysterious to me why that opportunity is picked up on. And there's always this thing about, oh, well, it's all very mysterious and we need to go in and do research on these things. It's been done. And so it's unclear to me. Maybe it's just a professional issue where, oh, I don't know who that guy is, so let's forget about it. But I assure you that you know, the provenance of these lots and their current status is well known and documented. I just wish we could get the city to look at it.
Okay. So thank you, Chris. And is that specific to Dogtown, or is it more broad than that?
No, it's essentially focused on those. I think if you've seen the maps, there's a series. This goes back to, you know, colonial times or whatever. There's a series of these lots that were apportioned to the residents and things, and they're, you know, linear, but they make a sort of a block in the center. Now there are a few other sites in Dogtown like that, but those are the main ones. And they constitute sort of a major, when you look at it, a major obstacle, if you will, to almost anything, including conservation efforts. They probably shouldn't, because there's nobody out there who's probably looking to develop them. Although there's I've heard some interesting stories about the city not wanting to see if the city might want to use the lots in some way, but that's just, you know, rumor mill stuff. So,
perhaps you said already, and I apologize if you have, this file that of the professional presentation of this information, where does that rest?
It rests with a colleague of mine named Jim McDougall, who used to be the land protection person at Essex County Greenbelt. He's now retired, lives in Topsfield. But as I say, he probably knows, you know, land issues in Essex County, certainly as well as, but probably better than in many cases, many other people. And as I say, he's a professional surveyor, and in terms of searching deeds and doing that kind of thing, that has been his professional work. So he's not just some amateur guy who's been fooling around. He's, you know, done this.
Okay.
So he's the repository of that stuff. It's his personal stuff.
Okay, thank you. Eric, do you have thoughts on how best to proceed?
Yeah, this has been kind of a little, I mean, I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly here, and maybe Chris, you could speak to it. There is this North Gloucester Woods study back in 2011. You're familiar with this?
Absolutely.
Sorry, okay. And so I just want to get to a map. Sorry if I'm making everybody dizzy. These are like the parcels that are really weird. So it's a bunch of wood lots, but then there's also these other ones, like this one, that has like an unknown owner from what I know. And granted, from this study, you know, but like Essex County did put CRs on several of these properties, and there has been some movement on, you know, putting CRs on some of these properties. However, all of these, it's still, you know, the city, we know what we own, but there are still some, like, you know, a tax taking is court. It's this stuff, you know, unfortunately our city treasurer passed away really tragically. So, you know, we're kind of at a limbo there. You would need a treasurer to like kind of pursue those tax takings, but from what I understand, like it has to be kind of a more, so here you go, like this is all the entry point. This is a very exhaustive study I can send to everybody, but it's over a decade old. I don't know how updated it is, so I think that's kind of the goal, is to have a better update and then kind of find the money or whatever it takes to put CRs on the properties that provide access, that, kind of meets the goals of the open space recreation plan. But I mean, this is I'll send this to everybody, or even put it in the drive, because it's 58 pages. It's pretty interesting. And I do think you're right that like a lot, but there's some of these here, like the unknown study recommendation, the tax title, complete the tax title taking, like I need an update on where all of that is.
Aren't they in the inventory?
I think some of them are,
The ones that was over a certain
20
acreage, I know were in the addendums of the open space plan, but they had to be only certain ones over so many acres were in there.
and that's the most updated one then, because you guys completed that study, or the inventory in like 2022, right? Or 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, so right now we did get like an initial survey back about I call it Poles Hill. That's something we need to figure out, whether it's Pole Hill or Poles Hill. I always called it Poles Hill, but I'm an outsider. But yeah,
Pole on it.
we should do a poll.
No, it had a pole on it. It's the Pole Hill.
Oh, it had. Okay, sorry. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So then it's Pole Hill because there's a pole on it.
Right.
But I see so many people refer to it as Poles Hill. What am I trying to say here? So we did contract with Benson Land Surveyors for the Poles Hill, and they're still kind of finalizing everything, but that would be sorry if you can hear my kids here, but I felt like, or not I feel like, but like potentially that could be helpful to like bring on this next piece of it, to build off of it. So I guess basically we need to communicate at planning department. Probably this might be an internal city thing with us and DPW to see what we can do here. Yeah.
Okay, so the effort to get a perimeter deed at Pole Hill is coming to a point of so it was deeded as a bunch of individual lots towards development, and that prompted the Prop 2.5 initiative that led to the purchase of it, as I understand, very roughly. So now what we're going to do is look at consolidating that under a perimeter deed. And that should bring, it's a great opportunity for community development and DPW to talk about how to keep doing this and to take on the Dogtown and North Gloucester Woods. And we at least have the North Gloucester Woods document from 2011, I think it was, that you just posted as well. And as needed, we can perhaps get from Jim McDougall the fuller information regarding North Gloucester and Dogtown, and present that to community development and DPW as informing how to define the project that would need to be contracted for any further work to resolve the in holdings. Is that correct?
I think it would be great if Jim could be involved early on in the process. I mean, one of the mysteries for us, and maybe it just has to do with workloads in the city and things like that, is that, one of the clear-cut goals, it seems to me, is to clear these tax title lands and, get them into city ownership. And it's mysterious to me why that's been, seemingly delayed or whatever. I'm not implying any kind of, wrongdoing or anything like that, but this has been going on for a long time. So it would be great to set a goal for that and have people who have knowledge and expertise sitting at the table and, trying to move that forward. And if there are stumbling blocks, yeah, let's see what they are.
Okay, yes, great, thank you. So Eric, it seems to be a ripe topic in the two critical departments right now. Can you tell us either now or inform us later what is needed from this committee to brighten the highlighting even further? I mean, we're advisory, we can't make it so, but it seems to be of interest. Whoops, I think we just lost someone.
Yeah, David was trying to raise his hand and got lost in the vortex.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So what needs to be done?
I think probably the best course of action is to just sit. So, I've had a meeting with the assessor's office, and like a while ago, that's kind of how like we got going on the Poles Hill. Like this would help the assessor's office because you have to assess a value on all these lands that are, with unknown ownership and all the consolidated parcels. Like it's a headache for them. But it does involve the treasurer's office as well when you're talking about tax titles and assess, like, so I think that's kind of what it is like, where does it go? We'll probably need some meeting with city departments to kind of get going on that. But I would say I do await like the results of the Pole Hill study first. I feel like, because then that's like, we're going to consolidate these. Assessor's office, you seem to like this. Let's keep going. But in terms of making that connection, I think it would be like, I don't know if you guys would need to do because you have it in the plan. It's a part of the city's open space plan. You made the recommendation. And if anything, you guys provided that inventory as well. And I keep forgetting to bring that up.
Yes. So
I think it's really internal to the city at this moment. And then I would like report to you guys possibly.
Okay. What is the next step regarding Pole Hill, and do you have a timeline for that?
So I know Greg saw the first draft, like the first plan. I don't know if there was some, it's not completely finished yet, but they're like kind of rounding the bend here. So I don't have when the next meeting is, but I can find out and just let you guys know via email when, we have like a final draft of the plan. Because I think it's important to you guys, because we're also been discussing that in terms of like the ordinance of open spaces. So it's like more than just the consolidations. It's actually like possibly being,
Okay.
in the fields,
Right.
Or in the ordinance.
All right. Thank you. Dave Morrow, earlier you were trying to get in. Did you have something to add to the conversation, Dave?
Just wondering if the information that Chris discussed that his colleague had could be put into our Google Drive too for us to review, since it seems like it hasn't gotten where it needs to get to yet. Maybe we can at least look over it so we have all the different disparate sources together.
Chris, do you have
Okay.
something to that?
No, that's certainly logical and whatever. It's again, it's not my place to allow that, but Jim has always been very enthusiastic about wanting to, move this ahead, and so I'll, certainly talk to him, and I think that can happen and should happen.
And I think what I can do is continuing to urge Greg Catamatori and and Eric and Mike Hale to they all seem interested in doing this. So it's a matter of putting information in front of them. Says here's the thing that you need to get rolling. So, I'm sure Eric will offer as well, and I will try to be a pest as well. Okay. Anything further on this topic? Chris, thank you very much for that history and the information on Jim McDougal and the files that already exist. That's a huge step. Okay. Next item, cyclist and pedestrian accommodations. Not much on this except that I did not include that on my list of things to talk about with Mike Hale. But as we were leaving the meeting, he said, "Hey, you've been wanting to talk about that. Send me a list." So I sent him a list afterwards, and I'm looking forward to an opportunity to follow up. Basically, the list was taken from the memo that we did last summer and that I shared with the committee a couple weeks ago. And so I'll follow up with that. There are things that are as simple as turning a storm grading to when you repaint or first, please repaint all of the bike lanes. And when you do, there are places where they kind of are getting parked in. So, address those sorts of things. There are a couple of other items that I've gone on too long about before. Okay. Any questions for me on the bicycle and pedestrian accommodations? Again, this is the conversation with DPW that I'm reporting on. Tree planting. Well,
Just
yes.
include a bike trail for Magnolia in your list, please.
It was not in the list yet. I think that's a great idea, Dave. What I think we need to do is to have a plan and a plan for the city that includes corridors to connect important places like Magnolia Woods with the city center. It connects Lanesville with the city center and CADA and MBTA and get people out there with highlighters on a big map. And I think the route from Magnolia to downtown is very important and should be on that. But that's not the sort of low-hanging stuff that that's a very big item. I do have a meeting on Thursday night with a group that is working with Mass DOT, and I believe much of that route from Magnolia to the city center is actually state road, and so what we're trying to do is get corridors, bicycle corridors along the state routes, and so that would be another forum in which we could bring that particular topic up, and it's called the North Shore Bicycle Collaborative or something like that, and it's led by the people who put together the Beverly Bike Committee. Okay, the next item, tree planting. So this is one in my naivete and my zeal to improve relations with DPW. I said yes. So 2 meetings ago, Mike Hale said, "Hey, I've got 400 trees coming in. Would anyone from your committee like to plant trees?" I said yes, and I offered to the committee, and it was clear then, and I was just kind of going along with it, that DPW did not have any kind of precise plan about where the 7 species of oak would be placed in the community. The instructions that I received when I received my 28 trees were very, very loose, basically open space and look where you think you need them. So I have been instructed repeatedly that that's not a thoughtful approach, and I realize that, and I apologize, and I take responsibility for not approaching the topic more critically. In the course of this, I reached out to the Cape Ann Trail Stewards and facilitated their interaction with the executive secretary, Rose LoPiccolo in DPW, so that they could have a volunteer effort and give trees. And that was nice of Cape Ann Trail Stewards to step up and to say, yes, this sounds like a good thing, and we have people who care and know things and can do this. But it also it just became difficult to proceed without a plan from DPW about where things were to go. As I mentioned, I have been instructed by Chris Leahy and by members of CATS, several, about that this is not a thoughtful and certainly not, and of course Kate has mentioned this as well in a message earlier today. It's not the best way to proceed. In fact, it can be it can have negative effects in certain habitats. So I will pause there and see if anyone would like to say anything about the whole enterprise, and then how do we proceed with this on this topic? Do we just leave it? Well, let me just pause and see if you have any questions or comments on the topic altogether, and then we'll take the rest of it.
DigSafe comes to mind.
What's that?
DigSafe comes to mind. So, I mean, people just go out with shovels and hope they're not going to hit a gas or electric pipe. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they have to be on city-owned properties, if I understand correctly.
Yes.
Well, but there's
like
facilities under there too, right?
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm agreeing. I didn't follow it all. I was away for some of it. I couldn't.
DigSafe was not mentioned by the people who were correcting me, but that's certainly another thing to consider.
Right.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Do you want me to share some of the thoughts that I shared with you, Dan?
Sure. Yes, please.
Okay. Well, my sense of this project is that it hasn't been very well thought out. It's unclear to me why 7 species of oaks. The first notice I heard of it was that, oh, they're going to plant some oaks. And my first thought was, well, what kind of oaks? That makes a difference in terms of how, any open space that these things are planted in proceeds. It turned out that 2 of the species on the list are not native to Essex County. So that adds another little black mark as far as I'm concerned. And then when Amy at CATS talked to Rose LoPiccolo, Rose shared the idea, just her own idea, I guess, but it would be a great idea just to plant all these trees up in Dogtown. Well, that's a bad idea. And my sense is that where these trees would do the most good, they're not going to have a huge effect. I understand, climate change and all that, and trees are good and, absorb carbon and that kind of thing. But 400 trees aren't going to make a huge progress then, but they could have a huge positive effect on the city if they were appropriately sited. And my context for those would be, 1, in the city's most urbanized areas, in appropriate areas along city streets, that kind of thing. Number 2, at the margins of city-owned land, such as ball fields or whatever, again, as appropriate for the athletic uses and things like that. But again, at the margins, the last thing we need is to fill in some of our most valuable ecological lands, our open spaces, both open meadows, wild meadows, and wetlands. One of the trees on the list is swamp white oak. That's a wetland species. The last thing we need is to be planting trees in Gloucester's wetlands. And so, and then the third category that I think would be appropriate and good and positive for these trees would be landscaping sites like school sites or whatever that have not been landscaped out, so to speak, and where the trees could provide, again, shade, which is, important for this kind of project, and, aesthetic qualities. But the idea of just willy-nilly planting these, and especially planting them in places like Dogtown, is the last thing Dogtown needs. So for whatever it's worth, that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions for Chris or for me? So the question I would ask is whether and what we might say at this point. And one approach would be just to not say anything about this year's effort. I don't know whether the trees have been planted. I just don't know the status of them. I haven't heard. The other is, so if they haven't been planted, perhaps could offer the ideas that Chris just mentioned in suitable places to plant the 5 of the suitable species, or the 5 suitable species. Another would be to maybe in the fall, in a conversation or in a memo or something, say, if you're contemplating this for next spring, the Open Space Committee may have some ideas about a planting strategy and the trees to be used. So, any thoughts on how to communicate further on this topic?
I like your last suggestion.
Okay. So rather than it may come up in my conversation with him, as there have been interactions between a number of people and DPW, and that would be an opportunity for me to say and try to say some of what Chris just mentioned, but and then again later in the year we could offer to be of assistance should this be an initiative for next spring as well. Yes, Kate.
Yeah, I don't see any downside to mentioning what Chris just said sooner than later, because it seems a bit of a I don't know where these trees came from. I don't know who decided on the species, but maybe this will put an idea in somebody's head that if this process happens again, it will give them some things to think about before it begins.
Okay.
It would be good to know. It would be good to know at this point, because my sense is that all these trees haven't been planted yet. If there is an ongoing plan to plant these trees someplace, it would be great. Maybe in your conversation with Mike as to where are we in the process this time.
Okay. Okay.
Another suggestion might be, again, I don't know how this whole process came to be, but maybe sequencing the delivery of the trees, kind of having 400 trees at once without the human power, manpower to get them anywhere is problematic. It would probably be a lot easier to plan for 100 trees and kind of move forward from there. That's just a lot of trees to have hanging around.
I certainly take that point. I don't know how much staff time he was looking to, devote to the project. I got the sense that the offer for the Open Space Committee to get involved was a little bit off the cuff. And I don't know if they were planning on volunteers at all, but I agree with you, and I can ask about that as well.
I think too, the relationship between having a plan and getting volunteers is pretty integral. Like if they had an actual, people in my neighborhood, if it was going to be at Swinson Field, you would get people from the neighborhood who would be happy to volunteer, and other neighborhoods, I imagine that would be the same. So I think if there were a plan, it would be much easier to approach and acquire people who are interested in doing the digging.
Okay.
Just to add to that, doesn't Swinson's Field, isn't there a plan right now to clear out some trees and plant some? I know they're doing it at Stage Fork too.
They
They have a
did.
Huge number of
They're,
trees.
they cut them down, but they were gonna add more, but there's a plan in place, because I know Stage Fork, they took out a lot of trees to add a special variety of trees. The thought of someone going into the middle of Stage Fork Park and just be like, let me plant this oak right here in the middle, it's a little concerning. One, people go there for a view of the ocean, so don't plant a line of trees, right? It makes no sense. I'm sorry, but I know there is plans in place for certain, all lining, I never know if it's however Hugh Ave going up to Stage Fork. They took all those trees down and now they're replacing them with trees that are all kind of more sustainable or whatever. So I don't know. Just the thought of go take a tree and plant it willy-nilly. So yeah, I think there should be, if there's plans for certain open space areas because Burnham's Field, and they also just did they lined Burnham's Field with little trees, right? Was that last summer? They planted a row of trees along the walking path. And I mean, it's gorgeous. It looks really nice. It makes that area, but again, it's on the edge, it's on the perimeter. You don't want someone going in the middle of that field and planting a tree. So I wonder if, I don't know, can people take them for their residential property? Is that
No.
okay? No.
No.
It has to be on city-owned land.
Yep.
Okay.
And I apologize, being in city staff, I don't know the details of this. I do think DPW is using some of them for the replantings. I don't know how many of them.
Since
But they could also be separate trees that they're using for that. I apologize, I don't have the information off the top of my head, but yeah, there's a lot of tree clearing in certain areas, and Swinson is kind of, I was very surprised.
It was a little shocking. It was a little shocking.
Okay. All right. So I think the outcome of this is that I need to bring it up in my conversation with him, and how's it going? Have the trees been planted? And try to capture some of what Chris just said about the 3 applications of these 5 of these species, and inquire about whether there is a thought to doing this again in the future. Take it from there. Okay.
Also, if there are any trees left, you all better place dibs on them fast.
Yeah. I want to move along and kind of wrap us up here shortly. The open space, kind of our subsequent agenda items have sort of been addressed in this conversation, so it ought to go quickly. But the last item in this was the open spaces awareness and smart use signage project. And Mark will talk about this in a little bit. My conversation with Michael was, I'll just characterize it as enthusiastic. The city is purchasing a sign making machine, and he said, yes, we can do this, and it's inexpensive, and I think he had a sign maker recently retire, and that has gone from somebody who paints signs to this machine that does it and cuts the steel and laminates it in all the right ways. And so he was on board with supporting a signage project and printing the signs, but also the intent of the project and making people aware of points of entry or trailheads where they can get out into open space. So, any questions on that topic? Great, thank you. All right, so with that, we'll go right into that topic as far as implementation task updates and turn to Mark on that specific item, signage at open spaces.
So that last thing kind of dovetails into one of the reasons that we want to amend the GCO section to include open spaces and trails. And for that effort, it is I'm not making good progress, but I did I do have a draft that I sent to Dan. I basically replaced a lot of Dan had some pretty good language in the summary, the annual quarterly report or summary report, whatever we call that. I basically used that language, sort of told a better story than I had laid out when I showed this last time. So that's really the bulk of it. I mean, and it's just got to maybe just kind of amend that a little bit and polish up sort of the closing paragraph of it. And then we can present it for review here maybe next meeting. Hopefully we can get that. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm having a little writer's block, I guess, just kind of finishing it off. Yeah. I think it's in a good place now. I think.
Okay. Mark, yeah. I will try to take a closer look at that. I looked at it briefly before the meeting. I'm sorry I let it float a little bit. I'll try to take a closer look at it tomorrow and see if I can offer any wordsmithing in the closing.
Yeah, I mean, you basically wordsmithed all of it. The way you sort of told the story of the reason, kind of put it all together a little bit nicer. And again, I extracted it from the summary, from the what's that document? I'm forgetting the name of that. Our quarterly report.
April report. Yeah.
April report. Yeah, I basically grabbed the text from the April report, and I left a couple of thoughts in there that I just wanted to make.
Yep.
Just for discussion whether they should be included, and everybody will have a chance to look at it, and then we can agree to send it on up. Yeah.
Questions for Mark? Thank you. On bicycle and pedestrian accommodations and planning, I mentioned my conversation with Mike Hale and my commitment to following up. I have established a very informal group. It's basically a Google group called Bike Gloucester, and a handful of the members showed up yesterday at the mayor's flag racing of the Earth flag, and we got pictures with the mayor with our bicycles and helmets and all that. So Bike Gloucester now has a as yet unposted Instagram account. But stand by, because we're going to shake up the internet with that, I'm sure. And that's enough on that topic. Land acquisition and conservation. Does anyone have anything on that topic? Okay. All right. Emerging issues. So I don't have anything to report. Do any members have, are you aware of topics? Yes, Dave Morrow.
Not sure this fits in this, but I'll give it a try. I attended recently a meeting with the Outside Mind organization, and they are advocating trying to get more people of color and people from minority communities out on the trails. It's their mission. They do this DEI training. I will probably go to a second one of their training sessions, but that's something that, as we think about signage and access and other things, I guess I would just like us all to think about how we could get more diverse people into the woods.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And that was called Outside Mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a woman in Salem, I believe, who's organized it really by herself. But they did a DEI training, and then we identified lists of obstacles for getting people of other communities out in the woods. Things like transportation and equipment and not feeling comfortable out in the woods, not feeling welcome in the woods. So we have what, 7% people of color in Gloucester, which is half of the nation's percent, but still there's some. And so, I mean, just, I don't have any conclusions or anything, but I just wanted to mention that I'm doing this, and I tell them I'm on this committee when I'm doing it. So I'm sort of representing us to them, and the trail stewards, of course, too, who got me into this.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dave. I think one thing to consider would be when we get to the point of signage and consistent signage at trailheads, is making sure that it's a wide variety of people who read test signs, to make sure that, you know, people with different perceptions and different backgrounds are getting what they need from the signs, that, you know, it's not just my or your perspective on the information that's needed.
But
Yeah.
one example, exactly, I agree. One example was, many people, if you say it's a hike, will go, oh, yeah, gee, I can't do that. But if you say it's a walk, they'll say, yeah, that's great. So there are some things that I had no idea. So your idea of having more people review the signs is great.
Thank you, Dave. And also, Dave Morrow was at the mayor's event last night in the flag racing. So thank you for coming to that, Dave. It's great to see you. Any other emerging issues or other business for the community?
And I just, before we move on, Dave, would you mind putting any materials you got from that training into the Google folder, or anything?
I'm
in there?
trying to think if I got any materials from them. I will, yeah, I will review that. And what they promised to send us a compilation of the observations that were made at this group. There were members there from Greenbelt and the trustees, who, you know, have much more sophisticated DEI organization subgroups than the trail stewards do, and they were talking about obstacles that they had identified. So I think I will be getting a list at some point of obstacles, and I will be glad to post it.
Thank you.
There's a signage project folder already. It'd be appropriate to dump it in there, I guess.
Thank you. And Adrian, I think you wanted to say something.
Sure. I just kind of had a, you know, suggestion sort of hitting on the recreation aspect of all of this. So in town, there's, you know, fields, there's soccer fields, there's baseball fields, there's softball fields, there's all these, you know, areas. I mean, we're going through it now with the hockey rink as well, the new rink. When these fields are available for usage, when the public can utilize them, who holds permits, when they hold permits. There doesn't seem to be like a comprehensive list anywhere. So you can show up to a field and someone shows up and says, no, you got to go. We have the permit. And you're like, oh, okay. Like I wouldn't have come, like, right. Like we didn't know, we didn't have access to the field. And then it's always awkward to go to a field when you hold a permit and there's like a group of kids playing and you're like, oh, we actually pulled the permit. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I got to kick your, like, you know, kids off the field because we hired umpires and we, you know, we have coach. There's a lot. It's just kind of an unnecessarily complicated system when all we really need is a quick Excel spreadsheet that shows what fields are available with the time frames and who holds permits. So, you know, when they're free. I just didn't know if maybe like in your talks with Mike, if at some point, some type of online permitting system that just shows when there's fields available, when there's, you know, if you want to go play catch with your kid and hit some balls and you're there and all of a sudden like a whole team shows up, you're like, okay, back in the car, let's find another field, right? And you kind of do the circle around town to see what fields are available, what open space are available. So
the permit and scheduling of
some of them,
sports field.
some of like we hold, when I say we, the Cape Ann Women's Softball League holds the permits at Burnham's right now from 5 into dark. We don't use that field. Our games don't start till 6:15. So there's a whole hour and 15 minutes there that field could be utilized and, you know, practice run late, like not a big deal, right? It's just, it'd be nice to know who's coming, who's going, when we can come, when we can go. And like just talking to the other youth coaches in town in the girls softball league, there doesn't seem to be like a really great system. Little League's got it figured out. Like they have their fields, they maintain their fields. They're sort of just like, honestly, at this point, they're private use fields.
Yeah.
And, you know, even though they're city property, but they're private use fields. And the rink, I know people are like, well, I just wanted, to take my kid up there. Well, there's 3 leagues now using it, which is great. It's the intended purpose. However, just a little bit of organization or
Adrian, have you inquired about this with whomever you get the permits from?
we not it's kind of hush hush. It's Joe Lucido. We talked to him, like we have like a person in our league who's the liaison there, and there's like a board for the softball league who, everything's just kind of done like, and it's sort of like don't stir the pot. Just get your permit and get out of there and don't question it. So, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of families that we see at Burnham's Field doing pickup games, soccer on like a Friday night, and there's a like big Guatemalan community. They're down there playing soccer, and it's great, right? I mean, this is what we want to see. We want to see people using these fields, playing sports, coming together in a community, enjoying our resources, and then to be like, no, you can't be here. And you're like, so, telling kids to like, go home and, watch TV or something because we're using the field. So it's just nice, if it was posted in community, like, I don't know, there's got to be a system to this where it's a little more organized.
Okay. Well, thank you for the idea. I think it's a topic that I could easily broach. If you had any further, further notes or background about it, please send them my way, and that'll inform the conversation a little more.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Any other emerging news or business? Mark?
So Larry Maber keeps continuing to refine, his pickleball plan for Mag Woods. And he seems to run into a wall, he's sort of hit a wall with DPW on this a little bit. Most recently though, we were trying to investigate some of his proposals are on the capped land, right? It was just some drawings today, actually. Eric, you posted them on the site. Those drawings we looked at earlier with the softball field. We're not sure if that was as built or as designed, but there are some flexible, the flex liner outlines in there somewhere. I don't know how to read that. It didn't look like they were a complete circle. I read them only for 5. I just got the email 10 minutes before this meeting, so I didn't look at them. But anyway,
you're talking about like where the membrane is.
Yeah, the flexible membrane. There's
it's like it's a weird dash line that
it looks like a little Morse code legend, and So the reason that Larry wanted that was just to help refine his choices of 4 or 5 sites within Mag Woods, and say, okay, well, here's 2 or 3 of them that are on the liner, and here's a couple that aren't, and what are the pros and cons of each one, and which ones take soccer off the table as conflicting. And so he keeps refining his presentation, and we keep finding more information about liners, and I guess I don't know where to go. What the next step is maybe dive into those liner drawings a little bit, and see where that goes. Right? Would you agree, Dave? Maybe something like that. But
well, I looked at those maps as well, kind of carefully. I got them a little earlier than you folks. The engineering department sent them right over. Within an hour of calling them, I had them. It's like, why didn't I do this 5 years ago? I don't know. But I'm suspicious that those maps are part of a contract to develop the site after the liner was there, but not by the people that put the liner there, but this is to build on the liner. Because that's what I'm thinking.
Because it was called a post capping plan.
Right. So there might be a plan somewhere that the people who put the liner there could tell us exactly where it is, but we could review that map and include the sites we were looking at. I don't think that information on that map throws out many of the sites that we were considering, really. So I don't know if that's the way you're seeing it, Mark.
Yeah. So I guess next steps, Dan, what would be the next step? We're kind of working this behind the scenes a little bit with Larry, trying to just help him out where we can. He seems to he's had some email conversations and some meetings with Mike Hale. I mean, at some point, I don't know if we want him back to present. He did present a couple of years ago, and if then it becomes something that we put on our monthly thing with Mike Hale, I don't know.
No, I don't know either.
No.
It does, we do have pickleball included in the open space plan. So in a sense, there's already an endorsement from this committee in general of pickleball. I think it's in the recommendation is to invest in the following emerging activities or something like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Okay, come on.
I don't know the best way to proceed. What would Larry be asking of our committee? Would it just be informing or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're right. We've already kind of endorsed it we've endorsed the concept and the idea by having it in the plan, but not maybe a specific, hey, we've rounded it down to Mag Woods because of its location away from housing. And here's potential 4 or 5 sites, and here are the pros and cons of each site. So, and then I don't know. But that's at least maybe taking it a little bit, another step.
Okay.
Yeah, in somehow. I mean, similar to the, the lots in Dogtown, right? I mean, that's in the plan. And yet we talk about trying to ways to advance it and take it to the next step.
Okay.
Same kind of thing, right?
Right.
We can just let it rot in the plan, or we can try to do something about it. And
Right.
so I don't know. But I say maybe ask Larry, maybe have Larry present again. Maybe people from the public will see it on the agenda and dial in or something,
Okay. That would be a fine way to proceed. Yes, Dave. Oops, you're muted, sir.
Thanks. Sorry, I would go ahead. Perhaps before Larry comes back with his plan, Mark, you and Larry and I could go over the maps and discuss it and put together, help him get a presentation that fits our understanding.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. And all right, I know he's been having trouble with DPW, and has there been interaction with council members?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that. We can ask him next time.
Yeah, it might be helpful to know what other city connections he has made, whether he's presented to the mayor's office. And Eric, do you have any insights about who else is talking pickleball?
I have not heard. I mean, this has come up. I think there wasn't a pickleball committee, but there was almost going to be one.
Okay.
And that was during like the Manchester
Right.
morass. I don't know what to call it, but like when everybody was up in arms over there. I haven't heard much since. It was winter, and but now I bet it will come up.
Okay.
I don't have Magnolia Woods is always kind of considered the site, so
Okay.
of its location, and that's where all of the proposals go to. I mean, there hasn't been like a concrete proposal, but like it may even be Larry's. He may have had a discussion with the mayor at one point about it, like recently, but I don't know where it's I don't know where it's going.
So is the committee comfortable with extending an invitation to Larry Maber to present on pickleball and options for pickleball courts at Magnolia Woods? Any objections? I don't know that this is, I mean, it's just a meeting agenda item. I don't think we have to take a vote on it. I just wanted to hear from you all. Okay. All right. Mark, would you kindly extend an invitation? Sounds like you're in touch with him. and offer, I don't know, what would be, what would enough time be, but not, we can't occupy the whole meeting with it. So a 20-minute spot.
Yeah, that would be the most. I think you probably
Okay.
15, 15. He probably needs 10 to present, and then we discuss for 5 or 10,
Okay.
So,
And I think within the committee, he might be able to drop some of the, or be very concise about the state of the sport and its rapid growth, because I think we've all encountered that information previously, or many of us.
yeah, I exactly. He has several presentations. He's since tried to collect it all in one place because he has
Okay.
so many files are floating around. But yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so you'll take that for action too.
I'll take that action. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Dave's copied on our emails
Right.
together.
Yes, I'm sorry, Dave, you were trying to get in a word?
I'm wondering if this is time to maybe consider setting up a subcommittee.
It's possible I mean that could be the next step after, if the city wanted to get engaged, right? If this, because then maybe you get a counselor involved and DPW or we could do it. I don't know. Does that give it more power, I guess?
Well, that could be an outcome of the presentation.
Yeah.
And we can
Yeah.
keep that in mind. What can we do if we're convinced in the meeting? We could say yes, we want to send a recommendation to the city. If it requires a little more study, we can say we need 2 or 3 people to and gather 1 or 2 others from the public and investigate this more, and then decide whether it will be a
Right.
recommendation.
If we can't make any headway on the liner, for example, right? If we're stuck, right? That's perfect.
Okay.
So if I may, the mayor already mentioned it to me, knowing my interest in Magnolia Woods, so he already knows about it.
Great.
At some point, I think what we're going to probably want to do is request some engineering support from the engineering department to evaluate the various sites that we would propose, because that's going to be important. They're going to have to say, well, it's partly on the liner, but that's okay because you're just adding stuff. I mean, those are the questions we need to have answered.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. So maybe an outcome of our meeting would be not a recommendation, but a list of questions for engineering about a preferred alternative or 2. Okay. Very good. All right. Thank you. Anything else on this topic? All right, we're been at this for a while. I'm growing a little weary. So our third item is towards adjournment. I want to confirm the date of our next meeting. The 4th Tuesday of the month is the 28th of May. The 27th is Memorial Day. I do not think I can attend on the 28th, but if there's a quorum, I would suggest you proceed without me.
It is that's a when.
It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day.
Oh, it's after Memorial Day. Okay.
Yes. Thoughts? Is there anyone who would not be able to attend on the 28th of May?
Yeah, I don't know right now. But we could do what's that tool you used last time?
Doodle.
Doodle, and we could do a doodle thing. Are we bound by that date because of the hybrid meeting reservations and things like that? Because then I would say, yeah, let's just do it. But if we're not, and we're flexible, we don't have to. We could go with the doodle route. One possibility.
Dan,
Eric,
if I could chime in.
are we permanently booted from Rose Baker or just this month?
There is nothing happening at Rose Baker. They're not having any meetings. I don't know what's going on there, you guys. You know, I thought it was the big reveal for us to start going in. We started reserving, we got a
Right.
space, but then now there's only 2 spots to do. It's only Harbor Master, Kairos.
Okay.
CPC got the boot too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
It's really weird. I don't know what's going on.
so we settled on the fourth Tuesday just because it was everyone is usually available. It seems like no one else chimed in saying they will not be here on that date. So there would be a quorum if you would like to proceed on that date.
I'll do it. I'll chair it if, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to be away for, I'm actually leaving on the 29th, but I'm leaving for a 2-month, bike trip. And so it's impossible for me to, be involved in a meeting on the 28th. Just got a lot of things to load up and prepare for this, but I may be back by the end of July, for a July meeting. I'm not sure of that though. So, I apologize for missing out, but I'm sure that Mark will do just a great job of sustaining the committee.
I'll need some help leading up to it. Not too close to your packing
No,
date, but and Eric, I'm sure Eric can help me through it, and
Yep.
and we'll try to stick to,
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to help, but
we'll add too much to the agenda, right?
yeah, I can't do the 28th. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So I think we'll settle on the 28th. The action items, reviewing action items from this meeting, I have a number of notes about, and I won't go through all the detailed notes, but basically follow-ups with DPW. Mark will follow up with Larry Maver and invite him to speak at the next meeting or a future meeting, and offer a time slot for him to present to the committee. Anything else? Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
A second.
Who was first?
Oh. I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Mark, thank you. Second, please.
I'll second it.
All right, Dave, thank you very much. All right, please indicate your, the motion is to adjourn. Please indicate whether you approve of that or not. Adrian Sweet,
Yes.
Mark Poulin,
Yes.
Dave Morrow,
Yes.
Kate Parsons,
Definitely.
Dave Sargent,
Yes.
and Chris Leahy. Yes, and I too agree. Thank you all very much. Enjoyed speaking with you, and I'll miss seeing you next month, but there'll certainly be some correspondence before then. Thanks again. Good night.
Thanks, Dave. Dan, everybody.
Everybody.